Hello.
Hello.
This is Elise Keller,
And that's Elizabeth Wight.
and this is
Theology.
Ology. Hey, one take. Okay. Um, okay, so we gave that a try. That'll be an intro for now. That counts as an intro, right?
It does. I
Okay,
think so.
all right, we're gonna do it. Okay,
Perfect.
so we are gonna just start first of all by telling you a little bit about why we're here because this is our first episode, our first
Yeah.
attempt at anything like this at all. So, um, okay, so Elise and I met online, as all good relationships go, right? These
Yes.
days,
Of course.
many of my best relationships started that way. We met online, and we will tell you more about that in the future. But um, basically, we just want to do one shot right now and kind of see how it goes. We're going to talk because we like to talk.
We love to talk.
Yeah, we like to talk to each other just in general, and we like to talk about theology. We like to ology about theology, I think.
Absolutely.
And so you're just this is what we're gonna do, right? We're gonna ology about theology, because like this we do this anyway. We were sending back and forth like podcast discussions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Podcast style voice notes back and forth. So we just figured why not actually get together, actually face to face across time zones, get to nerd out together.
yeah, so fun.
So
And so that's kind of what we're doing, I guess, is we're going to discuss like we picked a topic that we thought like we can sort of riff off it, we can just have a good discussion. And then because we're also still both, well, I know I for sure am. We'll see, but I'm pretty type A, and so I'm like, well, let's just
yeah.
like a little bit of structure, just like a
Yeah.
little. Let's just have a little structure. And so
Yeah.
so we have, so just a very little bit, but we have an idea of what we want to talk to you about. And I think it's going to revolve around theology and discussion of it, but I think we're going to go that might not be like your mama's theology. I don't know. How do we say that?
Exactly. There could be a lot of thought experiments, a lot of entertaining, a lot of different ideas.
Yeah.
I think that's good. I think it's healthy. I think it's fun.
Yeah, we this is actually a good little transition to we'll talk about this again too, but a little bit about like what we're not. Like it's kind of housekeeping, like biblical housekeeping sort of. So we are both Christians, like that's our approach. We are totally different backgrounds, totally different places now. A lot more in common maybe than not,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
uh but and we love this stuff. Like we nerd out about it, and it's a really fun topic. However, I have not gone to seminary. I am not a theologian. I am not an ordained minister or you know anything like that. I am just a nerd who
Yeah.
reads a lot and really likes the Bible and likes to think about topics, like just likes to think. And
And
these are
again,
just
I feel like it's kind of a safe space, like a safe landing space for these questions that you don't really want to bring up maybe in like an in-person Bible study at church. Like you're going to say something and someone's going to get offended, or
right.
it's not, you haven't worded it the right way, or like, why am I having this thought? And so I think,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's a,
That is, and that's kind of how this started is, which that again, we'll say more. I think if our plan is if this like works and is fun and people like
yeah,
it, we like it mostly
if
because this
we
is
enjoy
really just
it.
for our own joy and entertainment largely.
Yep.
We'll probably record like an introductory one next where we discuss like we actually talk about really how we got here and what we want to talk about and set some context for this. But I think this will also set some context. It'll also like kind of be proof of concept for us. Like if this
Yeah.
is fun, did it work this way or should we try another format?
Yeah.
Um, but with that, uh, we have we're talking about faith issues, and so there is accountability. And we both, between the two of us, we'll keep the guardrails on. Like I agree that this is a faith like it's a beneficial to our faith to have these kind of questions answered. I think actually that's a whole topic that I'd like to talk about first is like
Yeah.
why this kind of like deep, juicy thought experiment, real like aggressive intellectual honesty, um, is so important to faith and like how it actually grows your faith. Um, and but like we're not we're not what's the word, deconstructing, like that's not where we are. We have deconstructed a little
Right.
bit, right?
Yeah.
But we're not, that's not, this isn't a
That's
deconstructing
not the point. Yeah.
podcast. It's actually like the things, really, I think what you're going to see is what brought us back in a way. These are sort of the topics that like consumed us and gave us direction and drew us back in, is kind of what we've been attracted to so far anyway. Do you
A
agree?
1000%. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Yay, fun. Yeah, so we'll keep each other honest, and like if we make mistakes we'll just tell you, like if we find out we did, we'll own it later, because we're learning, we're gonna make
Yeah.
mistakes. um and we're going to really try to not, mistakes can be costly when you're talking about faith, and so we're of course going to be careful. We're going to be clean. I am not saying we won't swear, but we'll bleep it out.
Yeah.
Like we'll do something, we'll try not to. I'd prefer not to, but like, my mom listened to Christian radio when I was a teenager and a kid, and like
Yeah.
that was actually part of my spiritual development that I really cherish. And she wouldn't have listened to sweary stuff around me, and I'm like, yes, I want mom's listening to this in the car, so we're gonna tell things,
I
you
love that.
know. I mean, it's funny, but it did, like, that sort of thing.
That's true. No, that's true. Like you want to be able to be on in front of kids or whoever
Yeah. And if
and
we
not
talk
be,
about something that it's not, that like, hey, this, we want to get into something that really isn't for kids, we'll tell
yeah.
you.
Yeah, disclaimer.
Yeah, we'll definitely give you a little disclaimer, because we don't want to we don't want to surprise you.
But we
But
should
we're both
say pretty
sensitive souls too, so you probably won't need that often.
yeah. We
That's
can be
not,
a little bit sassy.
a little sassy, but
Sassy molassy.
that's part of the joy. That's part of the joy.
Yeah, it is.
So, one of our, well, okay, one of the things that this was born of, I guess,
Yeah. I was gonna
would
say
be
roll it back.
this thing where, um, we ask, gosh, that's going to be part of a story, but we like to take questions. I'll just put it like that. I love to take questions, and
Yeah.
I asked gals on my, well, it wasn't just gals, but that seems to be sort of our circle is definitely
Niche. Yeah.
men. Uh, but there are definitely men that are followers, and that's fun, and that's cool. I love having all those perspectives, but
I was
I
gonna
asked
say
ladies
I
in
love
our,
that because yeah, different perspectives.
yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I love it. And I think it's because we're really gearing this towards like our girls from the problematic, like Bible study and book club and all that. Because those are just the people that that's who we're talking to, is just our
Yeah.
friends there, right?
Yeah.
But if but we like, also, it's gonna go, this one's gonna go on my Substack. So if other people hear this, and we hope they will, right? I mean, I think we hope they will, yeah. Then we want it to make sense too. So, we're gonna have that context, but that's our goal. And that is the group that we asked a question of, just asked for questions. And one of our
Yes.
friends, Claire, we got a bunch of really good questions, but one of our friends, Claire, asked one that was, first of all, very like excellent and insightful, and sort of like one of those questions everybody has. And
Yes,
also,
Claire, keep asking questions.
yeah, please do. Like, we love this. But also, it's one that segues really well into the topic that we're going to talk about today. So, all right. This was her comment on Substack. Okay, I got one. Prayer has been kind of confusing to me lately. When we pray for strength or comfort for non-believers, does God still help those people even if they don't, or never will recognize that it was God? She noted she tends to think yes, but she doesn't know why. And then, I guess, what's the point of praying for other people? Does the Pope lead an easier life than a rural pastor because he's prayed over much more? Is prayer just for soothing or comforting the individual who's doing the praying? I feel like you already know me enough to know the answer, to know this, but I'm still praying. We did know,
Yeah.
and know the power of it for her individually, for me individually, but things still seem muddled when I think of how it works when I pray for other people. And I was like, that's a great question. I have
It's a
no idea how to
fantastic
answer
question.
it.
I know. I know. And that's the point. It's like we don't really have answers, just opinions.
Yeah. Yeah,
It,
that's exactly. We
yeah.
have a lot of opinions. We have
There's some,
thoughts, and
yeah.
some of them are pretty educated opinions,
Yeah.
but opinions they are.
Yeah.
Uh,
Educated guesses, a lot of it. But that, the way she said, it got me to think, like, how does that work with other people? Like, you praying for other people and those people may not actually believe in it. What does that mean?
Right. I don't think that God care, the outcome that of the prayer is not dependent on whether or not the recipients are believers, because
Right.
God's grace is very clear. It's to everyone. In fact, he uses answered prayers to draw people in all the time.
Yes.
So, in fact, I think you could argue that in a new believer or like an about to be believer's life, you're gonna see more like of like these directly answered prayers. Like I see that sometimes for people, and I don't want to be like, don't get used to it. It's like
Yeah.
it's almost like the like God is he's not luring
Drawing
you
you
to God,
in.
but he's wooing you, he's courting you, and he's letting you know that you can trust him. And then the periods of between getting those things answered tend to grow longer to grow our faith, I think, in some ways. But it's not always true, but I feel like sometimes in the beginning, people are just, that is what attracts them. And I
Right.
don't mean that in like a negative way. It's just like that's what gets their attention. And because God spoke to them where they were because they had these needs.
Right.
So sometimes it happens that way. So I would say that that kind of negates the possibility that God could save his blessings for only believers. Does that make
For
sense?
sure. Yeah, no, that does make sense. And I feel like whenever she asks like is the pope more blessed than like a rural pastor? 100% no. Like we know that's not true. Even though he has more status and maybe I mean, so Catholics believe that the pope is the vicar of Christ. So he is working on behalf of Christ here on earth. But as believers, we think that we're all doing that job.
Right.
And so no, he's definitely not more blessed than you or I. He's more protected and he's more he has
Right.
more
So now if you're looking at concrete blessings, like um, it might look like it if you're looking at having stuff. If you're looking at
exactly
having um
protection, money,
yeah,
access to things, publicity, fame. Like if you're looking at it from that point of view, for sure.
right.
But
But the thing is that what God wants for us is what he wants for us. And so if God wanted this rural pastor to be the pope, he just would. He would be the pope. So he is not, he is blessing him where he is, where he wanted him to be. He is maxing out the blessings for him at that space. Is there some like magical power to like, I mean, it's so confusing because like this is, I
I
mean,
will,
but this is the topic, so we got to go there. Like, what kind of, when we say there's power in prayer, do we mean that? Or
right,
is our power, are we like powering up? Like we're
right.
giving it like I got really weird things, my ring lights and in my glasses, and it was very distracting. I like realized I was playing with the like light reflecting off my glasses. If you watch this on YouTube, you will see
Yeah.
that.
I
I'm
know
sorry.
I do need better lighting. I always say that during my Zooms. I'm like, no one actually pay attention to lighting,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry if you watch the video. We are not in our, we're doing this on Zoom. This isn't the most
yeah,
professional
we're
set.
not very professional, but that's okay. I have been looking at her question. I need to like read it again, but there was something um okay, I tend to think yes on this, but I don't know why. And I guess what's the point of praying for other people?
That one is so tricky. I mean, the point. Okay, but I actually have a really good answer, but it's just because I'm reading. You guys are gonna get used to this.
Yeah, tell me.
So I was reading this book. I start a lot of sentences that way, and I literally highlighted a page. I think it's crazy that's about this, and I didn't even put it together. Okay, he's quoting Richard Foster. I don't know who that is, but this book is "Praying Like Monks, Living Like Fools" by Tyler Staton, um,
Okay.
which is very good. And I'm going to review this on my Substack pretty soon.
Oh,
This is like my
good.
second read through. It's so good. But Richard Foster writes, "If we truly love people, we will desire for them far more than it is within our power to give them, and that and this will lead us to prayer. Intercession is a way of loving others. Intercessory prayer is selfless prayer, even self-giving prayer. In the ongoing work of the kingdom of God, nothing is more important." So he's saying like it flows out basically that's you love someone so much, you want more for them than you have the capacity to give them. That's when you're called to pray, because
I love that.
you want to change their circumstance in some way that you're not able to do out of love for them. Um so that's why you pray.
And do you ever catch yourself, this is new to me, but instead of like I am very vindictive, can be. I can be very like vindictive, very spiteful. Like these are my worst qualities. But
Okay.
lately, since I've had a change of heart, I you know, we're told like pray for your enemies instead. And that's my way of like counting to 10, taking a deep breath and being like, this is you. Like, you got this. Because if I do it, it's going to get messy.
Right?
So, like, you're going to handle it whenever he's going to handle it. So I feel like that is a way of loving people,
Yeah,
even when you
it is.
don't,
Absolutely.
when you're not acting very loving towards them.
And it's sometimes it's like, so help me God, just like fix this person. Like that's all you've
Yes.
got. You don't have
Yes.
like a,
Yes.
bless them and protect, like you don't, but it's
Yeah. I'm not
just
doing
go,
the fake. Yeah. I'm
they're
not
yours.
doing, yeah, they are.
They're your
Yeah.
problem. I want you. I all good things, please,
Well,
but
and that's
here,
the thing.
have them.
I pray a lot for like a change of heart for me
Yeah,
and for other people because like there's a lot of circumstances where I'm like I want to do something about this, but I know that I shouldn't. Like I shouldn't meddle.
right.
And so please change my perspective on it or help me see it differently or help them see it differently.
And once again, you're praying, this is something you don't have the resources to change, but you want to see change
Exactly.
because
Yeah.
it's not in your control. Even if it's
Yeah.
an emotional reality, it's not in
Yeah.
your control to change it. So
Yeah.
you don't have you're not resourced enough. You want to see this change for
Yeah.
good. And so you pray. Like that's
Yeah.
innocent. But so that does answer her question, like literally. So like why do we do that? That's why. But what is the point of that is different. Because
It
like
is different.
that is our motivation for doing it. That should be our motivation.
And
Um,
is that an us thing? Like, are we doing it then for us? Like, God already knows the situation. He knows how it's going to work out. He knows how this is going to
right.
be. He's like, it's good. Is this more so an exercise for us to lean on
I
Him?
don't think so. I don't.
Okay.
So I think, and I would like, yes, I want to say yes because I think that is the easy answer. I think
Yeah.
that's like the faith promoting answer.
Yes.
Um,
It's the fluffy answer.
right. But like actually, yeah, I think that I think that sometimes praying actually does something. Like I think that not because of you, like it's absolutely calling out to God. And but so it also came up in this book when you oh gosh, it gets into like one of our other favorite topics. So, we're gonna come back to
Right.
prayer.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to say this because I started to say, okay, it's about like the messenger, like what praying is actually like what praying is, and how we're
Yeah.
interacting with like other with the supernatural world when we're
Right.
so
I
like
know.
that. So we're gonna
I was just gonna go there
you
with
guys, we're
like,
gonna go there. We're gonna go there. But you're interacting with the not with the spiritual world, right? When you're praying. Like I actually do believe that you're doing that.
same.
And or that it reacts to you. Like it doesn't mean that
Yeah.
you're not talking to angels, we're not doing you're talking to God, but that it responds to you because you are in speaking in Jesus' name means actually in this time when it would have been read with speaking with under using his authority. So it's like having his signet ring to stamp on this.
Exactly.
We actually are exercising our authority as like God created us in his image to rule. That's what Genesis says, to rule over, the land. So God,
We are his
we're using his
representatives.
authority.
Yeah.
We're his, his
It's like going
I
to
don't know what
work
I'm trying to
and
say, his vassal or something.
yeah,
Like.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and so that's what we're intervening. And that so I think it's like that. So we just actually like it's and I do think it's comforting and our hearts change when we pray. And a lot of time sometimes that's it. If what you're praying is self-serving, God uses that to change you. Like there's always room for that. I think God corrects our prayers. He doesn't like give us what he prays for. He gives us what like we want this to be good, and he's like, I'm gonna make it good. I'm just gonna do it my way. Like whatever, whatever it is. But I do think it's actually doing something for the other person, to be honest.
Um, there was something you said that triggered something. I was gonna bring up like how, and again, we can get into this at a later time, but it says in Revelation that God stores up prayers like incense in bowls. Like it's like a sweet aroma to him, and I feel like there's something there. Like there is something there is something to that. And I also feel like all of these like ancient rituals surrounding prayer, like novenas.
Hmm.
So again, novenas are like they're I don't know if they're strictly a Catholic thing. I feel like they would also be an Orthodox thing. I don't know if the Anglicans
I don't know.
have some sort
Hasn't
of
come up for me.
okay. So I know it's tradition based. I think it's like from the 1500s, and I think it was under Pope Leo. Um, Novenas are set prayers that you say for like it's 9 days. It means like nine.
Oh,
Novena
okay.
means nine, and so you do it for 9 days, and you can pray with saints to God about a specific thing, and people
Okay.
experience miracles when they do these things. So I agree. I think there's something
Yeah.
actually happening.
Yeah, I do too.
And and
And
because
not
there are
just
other yeah, there are other times where of course you can do all the things and it doesn't work.
right.
And I use quotes because it just like obviously that's not true. Like yeah, you can do all the things, but you doing things, and this leads into like the other top, like God is not transactional.
Right.
So, and that's hard. Like I know that's hard specifically for me. Like you sometimes you want him to be. You want to say, if I just do this thing, can you just give me this thing?
Well, because it makes sense. Because
Mm-hmm.
that we can understand. That makes
It's
sense to us.
like big Santa Claus in the
Right.
sky.
Right.
Like I want to be good, and so if you just make me be good, or I won't do this thing, and if I don't do it, then you do this, or if I do
Right.
this, then you don't do that.
Yeah. We're making deals.
Yeah, we're making deals, and
Yeah.
he's not transactional, but there are entities that are transactional.
Right.
And I talk
That's
about
scary. That's where it gets scary. That's where
that's where we get exactly like me and my brother talk about this all the time. We have a joke. We always say the other team's customer service is very good. Like you need something, you call, they'll answer.
right.
And it's not that God doesn't, but I think he requires commitment because he had the ultimate transaction. Like he
Right.
did he
Right.
did
He,
it.
he already
So
did the thing. Yeah.
yeah,
The transactions, like it's been paid. Like that's kind of, I mean, we're constantly waiting for the world to align back with God's intent for the world, intention
right,
for the world. Like that's what we're working towards. That's the kingdom of heaven that we're trying to bring to earth. It's that.
right.
Um, and like we do that when we pray. I mean, that's kind of the point. But like how and why, I don't know. So here's the thing that we wanted to say. We're going to definitely come back to prayer as a topic frequently, first of all, but I mean
Yeah,
also specifically like this question. Um, but it also really we think it like it kind of leads well into our next topic. Um, but but also something that's going to happen while we do this is I want to do I want to experiment with things like right because it's Lent right now. We're in Lent, and so I'm doing some sort of prayer. My thing I'm doing it. My discipline is regarding prayer, and I would like to practice some approach to this. So I actually think each chapter of Living Like Monks, Praying Like Fools is sort of like another. They're like techniques at the end of each one, like a practice, and
okay.
they're very simple.
Yeah,
It's like 2 minutes of silence with God, like giving an offering of silence, and how to petition and how to intercede in prayer. And they're just like very short little practices that, but very practical. It's a moving book. I highly recommend it. Um, but I think I'm gonna
I
just
wrote it down.
good, good. I'm gonna start like incorporating it like really actively,
Yeah,
like and noting like what I'm praying for. I just want to see because I don't expect to be like I don't know. Actually, I do. I expect to see answered prayers. I expect to see. I expect that I'm going to be surprised. I guess by what I find, by what I
yeah,
see, because I do experience that when I pray, and I don't know why, and it's weird. Um, and that's like we do know why because God's doing it. But like if you're like, but why? Why does He answer this one and not that one? Like that's what we don't know why.
right.
Um, there's that, and that's the topic. I mean, there are lots of ideas, but that gets into chaos monsters and like different, it's a whole different topic. We'll get there. Little
I
g
was gonna
gods,
say, yeah,
like
we can get weird.
principality, like there's going to be a whole thing. No,
Yeah.
but there are there are reasons for that. But one of the things that we're talking about is sort of kind of what it isn't, like, because there's like, what is prayer and what do you do? We can tell you what you do, and we can tell you what you might experience, and we can tell you what the Bible says about it, but as to the how it works, no idea. No idea.
Right.
um but we do know that it's not what it's not. And so if you see my notes, I wrote notes that I was like writing notes, and I shared it with Elise. And so the name of my notes is manifesting the secret law of attraction. And so, because we want to talk about, well, why don't you do you want to explain sort of what the topic is?
So we thought this question was a perfect intro into manifestation because prayer is kind of I like to call it like the perverted version.
Mhm.
Manifestation is the perverted version of prayer because anytime you take Jesus out of anything, it's demonic by nature, like
Right.
just by just by its nature. So we don't mean that there's like little red men that show up because you're asking for things, or you're trying to barter for things, or you're trying to produce some sort of result, but it's murky territory because it kind of leads you down that path. Like you're not focusing your intention is not on God. It could be on the universe. It
Right.
could be on God. That's one of the things, and that's again
Yeah,
that's
it's
where it gets.
flexible, it's not dogmatic in that way.
Yeah. And that's the thing,
Like
like
the
it
whole new
gets.
age, like new age everything.
Yes, new age everything. But it's ultimately you're trying to barter, and you are trying to create your own destiny. It's your will, even if it's good things, like even if you're manifesting health for somebody who's sick, or money for somebody who is financially in a rough patch or something. You're trying to manipulate it, and that's where it gets. You're the creation,
Right.
and you're no longer giving credit to the creator. So
And it's so pervasive because I think it's a lot of people's entry point into new age stuff.
it
Um,
is,
because
for
now
sure.
it comes up in corporate. It's very much corporate
It's
speak.
it's everywhere. Like
Boss
I said,
babe, it's like
yeah,
the boss babe world. That's really
yeah,
where it thrived originally. I mean, in its current incarnation, I think it started to really thrive in the boss babe culture. Um, and actually, it's not. I think it's also the like content marketing culture. Like it was actually really huge in that too, where they pulled a lot of
yes.
women in, and like so the
Well,
MLM content
I was
marketing.
gonna say there are so many companies who actually incorporate like tarot reading, and it's all like it's supposed to be positive affirmations and
Right.
pull your card for today, and like this is your mantra for the day. It's such a good easy access point, and it's easy
Right.
to say like, oh, it's not harmful, because like I fell into this, like I did this, like writing down intentions or writing them down.
Right.
Like one of my things was like writing things in series of, I think it's like 369 or something, I don't know, and you do it for a set amount of time. It's like, again, it's like the opposition of like a novena. They're taking something,
Yeah.
twisting it, and it looks so innocent, and it is innocent enough, and you
It starts
really
there.
can have
Right.
yeah, you can have the best of intentions. um
What is the so so that's what's kind of strange about it, is that like it's so accessible. um and so like it's also creeping its way into Christian culture, like not to into the faith because it can't, but there's no room for it, but into the culture. Like it is very present. And I think to different extents. Like I know some people that are like very much into it and like Christian, and they fully admit that they're like secret manifesting. They're just like, no, but it's just God, through God I'm
And you
doing it.
can't.
But
Like you
yeah,
can't.
yeah.
Such
But
a
then there
it's
are other
such a
people
worldly thing.
who are doing like prosperity gospel, which is really just this. So this was kind of my big thing, is that like it's one of them, but my big thing is that it is prosperity gospel is really just this.
It is.
And
It's
so,
just
and like
it's just new age repackaged.
it
Like
is.
that's really what it is. And I always call it like Satanism light. And it's not, again, like I kind of hate these terms because it feels so like um like a cartoon or something, or like it's like a
Right.
caricature whenever you talk about things that are like demonic or like or
Right.
satanic. But it's just the fact that like if God is the like the plumb line and you're diverting from it, and I know this because I'm building a house, things will not square up.
Yeah. And you also are in an old house, so nothing
Yes.
is fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
I don't,
nothing is square. But
yeah, you can't
if
cut
he
anything
if
square in
he
my
is the straight line, like that's what I mean. It's you really can't be, and this is something like I think a lot of people struggle with. Like you really can't be half in and half out. It just doesn't work.
house.
And like you have to submit. Like you actually have to. And that's
Yeah.
one of the things I I have a big problem with people who are like, well, I don't want to be a Christian because I don't want to subscribe to like one train of thought. You are. You already are. And
Right.
you already like we are we are worshipers by nature. We will
Right.
always worship something. And if you don't worship the creator, you're going to find someone else to, and it could be you. I mean, it could just be yourself.
Right. And a lot of it, and I think a lot of the times with this, it's money. Like I think that's where it's gone now. So I think we both kind of went off. So like our method of doing this was for now, we're gonna try out.
Yeah.
We kind of picked a general topic that we
Yeah,
knew
yeah,
we
yeah.
could talk about. We
Yeah.
tried to stop talking about it, which was
Right. So,
difficult. So we could actually have something to talk about here, but that was tough. But then we each kind of like went our own directions with it. But and then just earlier today we were like, what kind of direction did you go? We both looked a little bit into the history of it,
yeah.
because for me when it really came on the scene seemed to be with The Secret, but it's like a repackaging of like the law of attraction, which is older. Um,
Yes.
and then so like I don't know what part of the history did something particular like jump out at you that
Okay.
you'd like to share?
Yes. So Helena Blavatsky, she was the originator of the law of attraction. She studied in Tibet, and her studies eventually made their way to um, people like Aleister Crowley. Like they took from her. So her thing was, I have some of it written down. So she would channel these masters, channeling masters, which again, like people, that's people still can channel masters. What the masters are, we have our own opinions. I have
Right.
opinions on what they are, but she would channel these masters, and they would tell her things, give her secrets,
Right.
and tell her like we're in charge of humanity. Like we are very similar to, I don't know if you've ever looked into like psychedelics, and people have the same trips and
Very
they end
like
up seeing
similar,
these
yeah.
machine elves and these deities and these things. So anyway, very similar. Like anytime you get into anything new agey, people run into the same creatures like all the time, which again, like I tend then to believe that they are real. Like on
Right.
some level they're real. So she would channel these masters, and they told her they were responsible for guiding humanity's spiritual development by providing truth and wisdom, which again is something you hear all the time. Like you have
Right.
to ascend, you have to keep ascending, you have to keep working through it, and you're going to get more truth, you're going to get more wisdom. It's just more, it's like I said, it's just Satanism light. Like
Right.
that's all this is.
It's hidden knowledge.
So
It's
yes,
that
and
it's
so
Gnosticism
her,
too. It's really a
yeah,
lot of, yeah. Hmm.
that her teachings ultimately shaped like Western mysticism tradition. So she was kind of like the matriarch for the law of attraction.
Well, thanks to her. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so when I saw that it was law of attraction, which was born of like a movement, that was a specific part of a movement, the
yeah.
New Thought movement. And what was interesting is the New Thought movement was a lot around like there's like scientific stuff mixed in with like pseudoscience, how often there is, right? And then metaphysics
There's
and all.
always a little bit of truth
Right. Well,
in everything. Yeah,
what they talk about is that like our thoughts and are related to our health and how our like thoughts are like stored in our body. And like we know that so you ask I have asked this because I'm very literal. I mean, I don't have to be, but like I really want to know.
yeah,
I want to know what they mean when they say you store trauma in your body. I'm like, because I don't think I'm like, like, how? Like
How? Right.
spiritually? Because are you saying that? Like, what are you saying? And they're not saying spiritually. It's that it actually impacts your nervous. It's not the specific trauma is in your hips, like this one
Sure.
kind, but for sure it causes you to have pain, and that's another whole topic. And for sure there's a connection, a mind body, but that's because our mind and body, our mind is the filter for our spirit, but our body is also part of that filter. Our whole nervous system is connected to our brain. So of course that's not the same thing. So they were getting, but like really medically we're now starting to give more attention to this.
Yes.
That's not to say that got taken so far into the, like, you got cancer on you attracted that, which is like where it went. um
Yes.
but it started out in a place that I'm like, oh, like I actually see somebody noticed the correlation between these things. The-
Absolutely. Because it's all a system that works together.
right.
Yeah.
And so there's the correlation is real. There's some good stuff in there, which
Absolutely.
is why it's so deceptive and why it's so attractive. So then I decided to okay, so I'd never participated. My way into this, of
Yeah.
like, I mean, no, I should say not my way in, because I never, this is one that I never did get into.
Yeah.
Um, but
I'm so impressed.
I thought it, I have to be honest, I thought it was so stupid.
It's so
Like,
dumb. It is. It's so dumb, Elizabeth.
it's
I'm
so
not
dumb.
joking you. Like, it really doesn't make. And I don't really understand, to be completely honest. I don't know how people go further into it, because when
Right.
you start, you're like, this is stupid. Like, this is like a little bit dumb. I have to tell you, I'm just gonna interject and then
Oh, tell
continue
me, do it.
continue
That's what
on.
we're doing here.
But there was one thing that one practice that I did. It was like I said, it was like writing. Like, that was as far as I could go. Like, okay, I could write this
Oh yeah.
down like a few times and like just
Okay,
really
right.
focus on it and whatever. And what I what I was writing happened, and it was so specific that I was like, this actually can do something. And I knew enough to be like, this is not good. Like,
You're like,
like,
oh,
yeah, like this can get dangerous. This could either not work or it can get bad, because again, like, what are you actually channeling? Like, who are you talking to? Like, what are you talking to?
right, right. I just thought, so I thought it was stupid, but then I
Yeah.
had a a lot of friends. I mean, a lot of friends who really got into it. And so I like knew a little about it. I always felt like that's stupid. Like
Right.
I couldn't get over the like the like I don't know. I just couldn't get over the like put your hands on the steering wheel and picture it and vroom vroom. Like I just stopped. Like
Yeah.
so I
It's so
decided
cheesy.
I was like, I'm gonna I was working on some like design stuff. So because there's like I was like, I'm gonna watch The Secret. I'm not gonna read the book right now because like I don't have
Right.
that handy, but I'm gonna put on the movie. I I seriously I've been trying to watch it for 2 weeks.
It's so
I am
cheesy.
not I'm just over halfway through it. It is so painful. It's so painful. Okay,
It
so
is.
I was like writing down, and I'm not even gonna do it, but the titles of the people are like
Yeah.
metaphysician, the speaker, like the experts, and then there's the illustrious author.
Yeah.
Oh good. I'm like entrepreneur. Like these are the experts, and then there's like there's a quantum physicist, and I would like to see what
So,
school he
yeah,
went
I want to talk
to,
to
to
you.
be
Yeah.
honest with you. Um, and then there's a philosopher. That's what it says, philosopher, which I knew a philosopher once. I tried to date him online, and he was like this Russian dude that was like a self-styled poet that lived in New Jersey, um, whose mom had won the lottery and bought a line of tanning salon stores. Like so,
If my mom won the lottery, I would be a philosopher too.
right. And so he was a 25-year-old philosopher in the 90s. Hey, look, in the 90s, this is in the
Love
90s,
it. Yeah.
2000s, but he introduced me to Lana Del Rey like 15 years ago. I just want to say
Oh,
so.
thank God he
That's
had
why
good
she's
taste.
so that's the good thing. But my
Yeah.
he was a philosopher, and like so to me, I'm like, oh, good, one of those.
Right.
Like that's literally, I'm like, okay, a self-styled philosopher. You know,
Yeah.
Rob, if you ever hear this, you won't. So it's fine. But but like a philosopher, and then a I mean, it was just ridiculous. Like, and then there's Jack Canfield, and I was like, excuse me. And so
I forgot about that. I
that
remember
that's
watching this movie years, I mean, honestly,
so
probably
bad.
like a decade ago, and even back then being like, this is
Well, it was like
dumb.
2006, I think, that it
Yeah.
came out, and so so it's the same age as my son, my eldest son, who's 18, um, and he held
My
up.
dad fell for this so hard. Like,
No,
I don't know. I don't know if it's like
We need to get your dad on and
I
ask him
know.
like
I
what
have to ask him
happened to
when
you.
I
Like,
see him. I have to obviously I'm going to see him tomorrow and I'll ask him about it. Like, do you remember this? Do you remember? I remember like he literally had like a board, like a vision board.
uh,
How do you fall
I
for
don't
this?
know. Like I don't know. And like a vision board is harmless. It's like fine,
Yes.
but it's a bit I didn't realize how like so tied into this it is.
Well,
Like
and that's the other thing. There are like you said, it's easy to like dip your toe in and be like, okay, this is stupid, but like then you do get sucked in, and I don't know how that happens. I don't know how you go from like I find that really interesting. I don't know how you go from like thinking that your thoughts can like produce something to like the constant cycle of like clearing chakras and like how do
so
you
so I think
fall
that's
into
a
that?
spiritual progression. But I also think like you can come onto that
Yeah,
and be very skeptical. Like I think it's so stupid. I didn't fall for it the first time. I'm
yeah,
literally watching it ironically now. And I
yeah.
watched it and there's this little bit of me that's like, I mean, how I mean, they're like they say like it works every time. They keep saying it.
It
Every
works
time
every
it
time.
works 100% of the time. Every time the stakes are so low, all you have to do is just
Yeah,
think it. It's just
yeah,
experience it. Be it. And it's like, I mean, okay, so what's the harm, right? Like
right.
and so
Yeah.
part of and like maybe it does. Like this seems really stupid and I don't think they're actually right about what's
It
happening.
is really it's so tempting. Like it's just so tempting.
But
And
so
then there are people like have you heard of Neville Goddard?
no.
He was like I think he was around like in the 30s. I could be making that part completely up, but I
That's
think he
fine.
was around in the 30s and his big thing was like this law of attraction
Right.
and manifestation and but his was like Bible based, like he used scripture to justify all of his work.
which which is interesting. Like the secret uses it's so funny because the imagery it uses when it's coming on is like a guy in a toga and he's burying this scroll in the dirt while soldiers with torches are like
Yeah.
marching on them and then there's like a clearly like a purple stole a purple a clad bishop like
Yeah.
hiding the scrolls while like actually like greedily reading the scrolls while the scrolls of it well of the secret
Yeah.
while the crusaders are out killing people for it. Like that's really what the crusades were, was killing people over like that's the imagery and like so what they're doing is they're actually it's a really well crafted piece of marketing material. Honestly, like so I was talking to my husband about this and it's like it does every time. I'm like, I've been really thinking about this whole thing. He's like, oh yeah, I read that book, and then usually that book shows up, like it's usually off our shelves, and he shows it to
Yeah.
me. Or, but this time he didn't because
I was gonna
pirated
say,
he
keep talking.
pirated
I might have it right here. Hold
you?
on,
Oh
keep
my gosh.
talking.
Okay. So he goes, "Well, I pirated The Secret though," is the thing. And I was like, "You mean you manifested it?"
Yeah.
is what you did. Uh, so we don't have that. But he watched it and he's a marketer. He's been in digital marketing since that era. Like he was in it then. Um,
I
and
don't.
apparently in the like, those the lead gen people that are now the which bros those are now, like they're the
Yes.
click funnel bros, like those
Yes.
it was really big. It was like it was manifesting and get your 10K week, which is like
It so
comes up in
is.
tech and it comes up in
Yeah,
freaking spiritual stuff and it comes up because it's now this like so it's like it's tempting because
it
it's so
is. And
easy.
it's so but it's just so normalized. Like even we have like do you know what Herbalife is?
Oh yeah.
Okay, we have one and it's like right down the street and the girl who runs it, like bless her heart, she like this somehow made its way into her marketing and like
Oh yeah.
her business plan and it's like
Yeah.
it's just so like I said it's so normal. I think I told you like I literally got a text from Crate and Barrel that was like we're manifesting your spring like outdoors. Like why are you using that sort of language?
Yeah, because it is normalized. It is like I joke about it. Like I,
Oh, for
we
sure.
we joke about it all the time because it's just it's a part of the zeitgeist and
It
It's a
is.
weird
And I
time.
find that really interesting. And again, like this is where's like my tinfoil? Like let me put it on. But I think it's done personally, I think it's done on purpose. I think
Okay,
a lot
by
of these
whom? Done on purpose by whom? That's my
I don't
question. That's what I want to know when anybody says that.
I don't know if it's like I don't think it's like one particular like evil villain like stroking a cat.
Right.
But
Oh,
I know.
that'd be more
I
fun.
do think that there are people again who worship different things than you and I,
Right.
and those those powers require action.
Yeah.
And so like I find it more believable than not believable that a lot of the things that like we witness or participate in without even knowing it are like they mean something greater, like they
Right.
mean something bigger because we've always had rituals, like we've always practiced
Right.
some sort of magic. Like we've talked about magic systems and we could
Yeah.
talk about that obviously at a different time. I find it more believable than not that people in power are part of somebody else's like worship team.
So, okay, I would tend to agree, but I don't know. I don't think they know that. Like, I think that's part of it, and I don't even think there's a human being at the top of this. Is kind of more my thing. Like,
Agreed.
I
Yeah.
think this is spiritual work, and
Yeah.
people are take part
I
in
think
that,
it's manipulation.
and we're being, we're being used, either being used by God or not. And if you are not allowing God to like guide your motives, you are actually contributing to that. So, like, that's
Right.
important to remember.
Yeah.
Um, so okay, but like that's some of the stuff that really got me when I was watching this. I'm like, okay, like a lot of this sounds really crazy, and then some of it is not. Some of it's kind of accepted, like it's worked so into our culture that it's culturally accepted as true,
For
some of
sure.
the stuff they said. And I'm like, and I hadn't questioned some of those ideas until I'm watching this and going, and some of it's, there is a connection, there's a correlation between positive thinking. There are benefits to positive psychology. Is amazing. Our brains are amazing. Um, and they work really well. And there are absolutely visualization techniques that, because, but they're not, that's not magic. It's not something you manifested. It's because of the way the neurons fire in your brain. And it's like, and I
Even
mean,
like the placebo effect. Like it's
right. Placebo effect. Oh, okay. So they use that too. They're saying that like, that's kind of what it is. It's the placebo effect. But look, if, if it was that real,
yeah,
delusional people,
right.
that would become their reality. Like when we'd be able to see it because they truly believe something that is not true, and it'd become their reality. um
Exactly.
if children would never suffer if manifesting was true, because they're born into a state of need and joy, and need and joy. Their children, tell me that you believe children manifest good or
Right.
bad things that happen to them.
Yeah.
And but
You can't.
that's the thing, is they will. They like, when you, I saw this in The Secret, and I was like, they're gonna back off, like they're gonna pull back. He's like, I know it's hard, because when you hear, so wait, I manifested that car accident, I manifested that bad client, I manifested that divorce, whatever. And he's like, yeah, but you did. And I'm like, what? Like, okay, first of all, trauma informed. Great job.
That feels a little
What?
bit like, which I have not really looked into this, so like nobody come for me. I don't know how like valid any of it is, but have you heard of German New Medicine?
Ugh, no. It sounds terrible already.
German New Medicine is this idea that like one time when you were 4, you stubbed your toe, and then that triggered like your autoimmune condition that you have now, and you haven't yet released the trauma of
Oh, it's
you.
even like, it's like Scientology. They just named that thetans. Like I mean, this is all like just,
There might be, honest to God, like, and again, this is where like I haven't really looked into it, so maybe it is more legit than that, but that's like
that's
I'm
what
pretty
it feels
I
like. Yeah.
am pretty sure that is what
And
it is.
so, like, okay, we know that the body keeps the score. Okay,
Yeah.
like we get that, but
Yes.
it's not because you manifested it. Um,
Right.
so like, because then can we just manifest things for other people?
Well, I
Because
mean,
I
like you
like,
said, are we not then going to manifest that every kid is going to go to bed with like a full belly? Like, yeah, of course, everyone would do that. Like, unless you're like
or
a
like for
demon. You're
themselves though, if you're mostly manifest, it seems like you're mostly manifesting your reality. So then they start saying you can't control what other people do, and
right.
you should have realistic things. And also if you like, and it's like, okay, so you can like it's really just positive thinking. I mean, that's what they say. It's just positive thinking. It's harmless. I just don't think it is. Um,
Right.
and also like I didn't go back and check, and I want to see if all these people, like, did they all never get cancer, and did they all have live, do they all still believe it, do they all still live in that? I don't actually think people who have that kind of buy into that can be emotionally healthy.
I was gonna say, I feel like it ends up leading to nihilism because you're just like you get like black pilled and you're like, okay, nothing works. Like I don't, so I have faith in nothing.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like
I mean it's
everything's meaningless. Like it doesn't matter because I mean, you have to like run yourself ragged trying constantly again to like work through things and like produce this reality. And I do think, like you said, positive thinking. I actually have a problem with positive thinking. Like, this is one of my, I know this is probably like a really hot take. Again, I feel like the truth is so important, and the truth is not always good in our view. Like the truth is
right,
just the truth. It just is what it is.
right,
So I don't know why some kids get cancer. However, I now understand, and this is something like I told you this earlier, but like this is something that is new to me. Like the idea of God being sovereign is like a new concept to me, which is wild because again, like I grew up in a faith, but it was like that idea was never, for some reason, like that wasn't in the forefront, and I wish that it was because I think I would have saved myself like a lot of worry and anxiety and like stress. Like I don't, like God is not looking down and being like, "Ugh, darn it, what now, what, like what am I supposed to do?" Like he's not, that's
right.
not how this works. But that like kind of was my thing for a really long time. So anyway, I just like positive thinking is not truthful. And so then it can become dangerous because you become avoidant, or you can, you know what I mean? Like there are certain things I think that you can just, you end up ignoring things or whatever instead of facing things, dealing with things.
Right,
'Cause
right,
the truth is the truth. And
right,
it's not always like sunshine and rainbows, and we were never promised sunshine and rainbows.
right.
That's more like prosperity gospel stuff, and it's
It's
garbage.
so harmful, which is like witchcraft. So that's the thing. Like this is all, I mean, like, what is the definition of like white magic or witchcraft? Witchcraft, like I don't know, but it's like
Let's
you have to do a thing, right? Like
yeah,
there is some sort of
you have to do it.
incantation or
Yeah.
spell or manifestation or whatever, but you are creating this um recipe,
Yeah.
whatever it is, whether it's like actions, emotions, thoughts,
Only for good
act or
purposes.
actual
Yeah.
things, right? Only for good purposes. um so you have to do these things, and then you will be rewarded by having those things given to you. And so this prosperity gospel, but like I get it too. I it's confusing. Like I get stuck on, he happened to use that scripture in here, so I marked it. The okay, John 16, 23 and 24. In that day, Jesus says this, in that day, this is after he's gone and the Holy Spirit is back in his
Okay.
place. In that day, you will no longer ask me anything. So again, he's talking about like not to his face because he's not going to be there anymore. He's going to go back to heaven and all that. Very truly, I tell you, my Father will give you whatever you ask in my name. Until now, you have not asked for anything in my name. And that's because they've been asking him directly instead of asking them like under his authority.
Yeah.
There are so many times in the Bible where Jesus specifically says, like, ask and you shall receive, like, ask it and you, it shall be given to you. What does he mean if not that? And so I
Seek
get
and
where
you shall find. Yeah.
right? And so you look at prosperity gospel and you see where they get it. But the Bible's not meant to be taken like, you don't take the one little verse and you go like, oh, that's what you look at the context. um I don't think he was talking about money. Like
No, I was gonna say I don't think he's
I
talking
mean,
about
he's not
things.
talking about money, and so prosperity gospel gets into that. But prosperity gospel, it's also aligns with the like the faith healing. I got this. I've gotten this when I have like health things or chronic pain. Um, the things that I hear from like my new age friends about manifesting it are the same things that I hear from Christians. so
Exactly.
often. Words have
Yeah.
power, and I'm
Yeah.
not saying that they don't, but I
Right.
don't think they do in the way that people mean. Like, um, and like, uh, somehow I'm manifesting it by not having enough faith or not faith in the right things. Like, I just don't buy that. I just don't like.
Do you have thoughts on, this is a different topic, but do you have thoughts on curses and blessings?
Yeah, yes, definitely, and I think those
Like,
are real.
do you think someone can curse you like with their words and something will happen?
I think they can try. I don't know. I think they can certainly.
I don't have an opinion, that's why I'm
Yeah,
asking.
I don't know. I actually don't know if I do either.
Okay.
My gut opinion is yes, I think
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Um, and but like I don't think you can do it accidentally, I guess. Right? Like
Yeah.
I don't think that you can just be like saying like, oh, they say like talking about when they're like, if you've been thinking, oh, I have debt, and then you go to your mailbox and there's debt. Well, no, there's debt in your mailbox because you have debt.
Right.
Because you spent money that you don't have, like you bought on time. Like there's a way that we know exactly where debt comes from.
Right.
You didn't
Yeah.
manifest debt. It's a consequence of something.
And I think that's really big too. And maybe that's more so, again, like I have a problem with, like, obviously we come from a very spoiled, a very westernized, almost sanitized like look at Christianity as a whole. Like we're talking about something very supernatural and like something very mystical. And I think a lot of people do try to like somehow take that out of it, but it's like that's the whole thing. Like we believe in a zombie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
But
we believe
yeah,
in.
it's, I think a lot of these, like even just our problems, like these are just consequences. Like they're not even, they're just consequences of our actions. I
And
love that
I would
meme that's like, well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions. It's so true.
I mean, and that comes down to my overall worldview, or not like religious worldview on free will and answering prayers is like really ties back into that. Is that like and that's a whole other topic, but it's chaos theory adjacent. It's that
Yeah,
everything is an act of
yeah.
isn't impacted by infinite decisions of free will throughout the years. And God, I don't think not ever, but I don't think he typically interacts with us by directly going in and changing the situation. Just boop, this is over. I poofed this person out of existence for you. Like
Right,
I wouldn't say he never does that, but that's
right.
like, pardon this term, but that's a Hail Mary right there. And so like, you know, um,
Yeah,
and I think that's for very specific purposes when his plan, he's keeping his plan. Just because he knows his plan is going to happen, it doesn't mean he doesn't know that he has to defend it and protect it the whole time for it to happen.
hmm.
Um, so, you know, I think that we really do need to talk about prayer and the whole thing, but like when you're looking at it like this, so then what it isn't, if it's not just like you getting whatever you want, then what does he mean? So like these questions are really intertwined. Like, what does he mean about you will get it? I don't know, except that I have prayed long enough for enough people that I believe that it's a thing. Like it's a lifetime of seeing it go to work, and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes in the rear view mirror, like you see why it didn't, or why, I mean, most of the time, but sometimes a child dies. Like sometimes something really horrific happens that shouldn't
Exactly.
have happened. And like we are in a broken world, and it happened as the result of infinite decisions, and God could have intervened and he didn't. And there are reasons that might happen, and none of them are comforting to
I
the
was
mother
gonna say
who lost that
that,
child. No
right.
reason is comforting. Um, but I do not think God does it take nothing back. God, death is not from God. God didn't intend for death. That was not his plan. He allowed it.
Right.
He
Yeah,
allowed us to make that choice, but he did not intend us to die.
right.
That's the result of our own decision. So like death is not what he wanted for us. So I don't he doesn't cause it. He allows it sometimes. He doesn't intervene, but like what like if you like the big picture, it's not a video game, it's not a vending machine. It's like 4D chess. It's like,
It is. It
you know,
reminds me of that movie, The Butterfly Effect. Like
yeah,
every,
that's the chaos. That's chaos theory.
yeah, that's exactly it. And it's you're right. Like
I haven't actually
there,
seen that movie, but I know what it's about.
I saw it obviously whenever it very first came out. I haven't seen it in forever, but no, I know what you're talking about, and I love that. Like I love that. Like that's a good visual. I think is like this one little action does have ripple effects. But yeah, there's so many like they're just niceties. It's like, well, we'll never know this side of heaven, and like all of that's true. But you're right. It's not comforting. Like
Right.
it just isn't. But that's the truth.
Right. So I think I, and this isn't comforting either. A lot of these answers, okay, part of the reason that I want to do this as I play, I just realized I'm like playing with my highlighters. Sorry. My bouquet of
Same.
highlighters. They're my fidget highlighters.
Yeah.
So you have a pen in your mouth. Perfect.
Yeah.
So part of the reason is that when I was talking to someone at my church who's like an elder, and um I mentioned that one of my friends like had I texted me right then, and I said, you know, she's got an issue with this thing in the something to do with Job's wife, and there was a lot like it was crazy, and she was like, it really seems like God doesn't like women or whatever it was. She's like, just tell her to. I just read it out loud, and I had like a good answer. That's where my heart is. Like, you know, this is what I love to talk about, this kind of topic. And she was like, just tell her, just keep reading, just keep reading, just keep reading the Bible. And I was like, I mean, I know why you're saying that,
Right.
like that's good advice, it's true, but like she doesn't have to, she's not a believer. The I
Right.
need, I got to give her more than that.
Right. And
Like
that's
I,
and that's the
yeah,
other thing to keep in mind is like there are different standards for believers and non. So it is hard to navigate.
yeah. And we should do it, we should just do it to do it, but like what about the fact that there are good reasons to do it? Like what about the fact that if you like the Bible is, it is authoritative, it is all that, but it is also a narrative. It's also
Right.
that you can see there are truths you see in the big picture, and there are truths you see in the micro there and in the middle view, and you see themes repeated, like, but so yes, keep reading, absolutely keep reading, but also I'm gonna like, why don't we just address it, like instead of saying like, you know,
Yes.
this is above your pay grade,
Well,
like,
and there's so much of that, and I feel like the only reason that I never did read the Bible or was even like encouraged to read the Bible was because it's like, well, like they already touch on it, so like you don't have to, like don't worry about it.
right,
But then you end up with all of these like questions, and they're there. They are the answers are there. Sometimes you do need commentary, and you do need other people to give their opinion on what they think, so you can feel it out for yourself. But it is really important to actually like get in there. And we watched this comedian who was really funny, but his new special is not good. I didn't think so. And his name's Rory Scovel. Have you heard of him?
mm-mm.
Hilarious. Okay, but he has this bit, this his new bit on like who are these people who are reading the Bible and like highlighting it? And I'm like, oh my god, I'm one of these people now. But
Whoops.
but it's true. Like you have to get yeah, you have to get in there.
Shake my highlighters at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you do, and like for first I understand the logic of that, and I can see teaching that, no I can't, I'm trying to justify it, but I was starting to say I can see teaching it to like a middle schooler or something, but
No,
actually not.
because it doesn't work.
You need to answer those
You need
questions,
to answer the questions.
and
Yeah,
like
you do.
I don't know, spiritual maturity, like it's true that like there's a lot that we can't answer because there isn't a perfect answer, but like I think that's what my goal is, to engage with this with enough intellectual honesty and humility, to be like, I don't know all of it. Here's what I think. Here's why I think that. I'm not a Bible writer either. Like I'm not, this is not the gospel. This is my interpretation. And I do want to be careful with that because it's my interpretation, but that's all we've got. Um,
For sure.
and
Yeah.
my interpretation is based on probably like reading a bunch of other theologians,
Right.
and my parents and my pastors and my, you know, like the other people who
Yeah.
make up your spiritual formation. But part of this process is like wanting to know more, like wanting deeper, wanting to understand more. Like it's not a lot of the stuff is academic. A lot of it is not a primary doctrinal issue. There's really not as much to discuss on the primary ones though.
Right.
The answer's clear.
Exactly. Yeah.
So like it's
Like no
academic.
one's going to talk about a triune God.
Right. Like, yeah, I mean, that if you want to get real into understanding that thing that is absolute and true and it's creedal and everything, you're going to have to talk to a theologian. Like
Yeah,
that is
yeah,
above my pay grade, okay?
yeah.
But like we I don't know. I think it's just about engaging with the topic and like probably more questions than answers a lot of the time. Um
All
but I think
with
that's
me always. Yeah,
yeah, but that's like that's how you enter further in. That's God draws us in, I think, through that. So like I don't sometimes I might have like sometimes some questions have answers. Some
yeah.
questions have easier answers. This one probably has an answer that Claire asked, for instance, but I've never seen it answered to my satisfaction.
Same.
Like
I agree. I've never had someone like explain it to me and like a light bulb goes off and I'm like,
yeah.
oh, nope, that answers it and that makes sense.
I actually felt like I could. Like I've when I first read her question, I was like I know this answer, but then I tried to put it together and it's not. I know it because it's of a million little pieces of things that have built up over time. And so that's what the process um of discipleship is like that constant getting to like you get closer and closer, you experience prayer more and more, you experience scripture more and more. It grows the longing in you. Like I don't know. This is new. It's come at times. I've
Exactly.
always loved Jesus. I've always liked the Bible and been interested, but
It's
this is
new
intense.
and it's interesting and it keeps things interesting and like I'm not bored.
No, you can study this for the rest of your life easily.
Literally for the
Several lifetimes.
I
Yeah.
know. And I think that's the biggest thing for me is like, and again, I know we're getting off topic, but it's like when I read through the Bible the first time, like I literally had to read the child's like in the Old Testament, I had to read the child's version because I was like, what is happening? How has no one ever like told me that this is like this is
Right.
the Old Testament? And then it does get easier, but then you get more into it, and now this is like I say it's like two and a half times because
Mhm.
but and then you do things like today, like the Substack girls will know this. Like on your comment section, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Let me look into that, and then that led to an hour
Mhm.
of
Whole new
of
stuff.
digging.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
all new stuff exactly, and you're just like. It's like detective work and it's fun. I don't know. It does keep you engaged and I'm really grateful for that part of it because it doesn't just feel like again like it's not a transactional thing. It's like I'm engaged and
Right.
following and that's huge and I think that's part of it.
And I think the reason that does tie in to me is that what we're trying to do, like manifesting is just trying to capture how this works. Like how what is because there's clearly we clearly have a relationship to the universe. Like we for us for the purposes of this podcast, we're presupposing some stuff. We're not going to try to go be like prove to you that we live in a spiritual world. Like you can maybe get something out of this if you don't believe that, but
Right.
but if not, but like that's not where it's gonna. We're not gonna be the ones who convince you because I don't know how. Like I don't know how you do
Yeah.
that. I mean, there are people who really do a great job. And even getting to the Christian worldview, we're even going to be speaking from that worldview because that's ours. Like, and this is not exactly apologetics. Like we're not trying to explain Christianity to try to get you to become a Christian. We're exploring things as Christians, which is actually the process of getting closer to God all the time, which is what it is to be a believer, right? It's just like always learning, always getting closer. Um, but I think that we're like manifesting things, the law of attraction is like noticing that there's a pattern. For sure there is. Like for sure of course you see correlation between people who are positive and who have happy lives. Like it might not go in like the order you think it is, but I also know very very positive people who've been incredibly poor and had incredible,
Yeah.
I've seen enough that I absolutely do not believe it. It's impossible to me. I don't
Right.
mind that. But as opposed to that, how is God different? How is prayer better? So there are two pieces to that. One, it like that's not why I follow God. I'm not a Christian or a believer because of how he answers my prayers. It's right now like we have eternity no matter what happens, and I think it's easy to forget that God has the eternal view. So his answer to your prayer the best answer that's possible, it might just not be one you can see from here because you don't have the perspective. And that sounds horrible when it's about your child, but like you really don't know. You really don't know the expanse and the like end result of this. The answer is probably something we've never imagined or anything.
Exactly. I think a lot, yeah, I think probably a lot of it is that.
And but the overall picture of like the like we think that the way that God like answers our prayers is by like you get a snapshot. Like you go to, those big art projects where you can go and you get a snapshot done at an event. But then they do this big mural and they make like a big piece of art out of all the pictures that like they shape and so as you pull out you can see like this whole big picture that's made up of we're focusing on that, on the like one
It's
single
the
picture.
elephant experiment
Yeah, yeah, and
where all the
but
men
like
are blindfolded and touching the
yeah,
elephant.
yeah, exactly. You see a different part of it, but it's even like, but like at the size of it, like it's all part of it. Like you can the whole picture. It's just you keep zooming out and zooming out and zooming out, and we cannot zoom out that far. Like we're just not capable of it. But I think it gets answered. But also, like of course, it still is the most important thing to you in the world. That prayer that you need answered. So like I get the temptation to want to manifest it. Like that it's I mean, this is I almost feel bad. Like didn't come to any conclusions. Um Concluded that it's very tempting and that it's stupid, but it's such a part of us. Um
It is.
it's I mean culturally, but also that I think I think that says a lot about prayer, but I'm not sure what it says yet. Like I'm feeling like this is part of developing my like my theology
Yeah, I
of
feel like these are one of the
right.
questions that, yeah, like you kind of chip away at as
Yeah.
you continue on. Because
Yeah.
I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone, I mean, I don't know if anyone really does. Like I said, we've both looked into it and it's like, these are not satisfactory.
No. Well, I think okay, let's call this season one is going to be Claire. We're going to be answering that question a little at a time because I think that some of the other topics we have coming up will have like help us answer this too, and get a broader picture. Um, but I think I think that we have probably come to as few conclusions as we're going to come to and as many as or whatever on this. Like we could talk about this forever. I think it's such a fun topic, but um so I was thinking we next will probably well we kind of know what we're going to talk about next. Um but before we move on to I want to discuss that a little bit, but do you have any like final kind of wrap up? I still have another whole notebook of thoughts, but do you have more thoughts for this
I
topic?
love that. On this specifically, I feel like my main takeaway is like this is my big thing. I feel like pride is at the root of a lot of things and like a lot of our motivations, and manifesting and prayer can be really prideful. If you get down to it, it's like I want this thing. I need this thing. So it's like a conditional, again, like I'm going to give you this, or I am going to pray for 9 days, or like any which way you look at it, you're doing it to like benefit you. So I think an ounce of humility always, which is really hard. I mean, I know that's really hard for me. Like humility is such a big thing. Again, recognizing that like Jesus made the only transaction we need, and then relying on that.
And I think it's tricky. I guess that kind of leads into like my final thought is about I think the temptation, one of the reasons the temptation is so great to apply this to other people and as Christians, and in like one of the insidious ways that this gets used is like whatever is going on in your life, whether it's like a tragedy or an illness or whatever, um we can tell people like, hey, you like no offense, but you like manifested this a little bit, like you did, and or you didn't have enough faith or you didn't pray enough, or like what sin could have given this a foothold in your life,
Yeah.
like that one's just like that is not how that works. So that comes up a lot, or like even I haven't experienced this, but like tying it to like don't to tithing or other kinds of offerings. um but I think that really why people do it, I don't think that people are aware of this, But I have experienced this in the last short period of time, this last few days, watching being close to someone who is suffering. And I mean the profound, gut-wrenching, nothing you can do,
Or say, yeah,
nothing you can do or say suffering.
yeah,
Um, that is like I'm watching, and I'm watching how other people respond to this person who's in that. And for the most part, I cannot believe how much they find things to blame on this person who is totally like a person who is suffering. Like they want you to suffer less. You manifested it, and I think it's not intended to be cruel. It's because it is so hard to watch. It is so painful. And I
and
know
we're
because like,
always looking for a definitive answer or reason behind it.
or at the very least, it decreases our pain a little bit. If it's a little bit your fault that you are going through this hell, if it's just like a little bit, I can understand the world better. Like I can make
Yeah.
sense of my worldview. If good people get good things and bad people get bad things, then I
Yep.
can control the outcome of my life by being really, really good. And I also just don't have to suffer with you completely because I can be like a little bit like you brought this on yourself. And I
Right.
don't,
Like
it's so
I'm a little
tempting.
bit better than you.
Yeah, and it's a little tempting, like, when someone is in so much pain, and I
Yep.
just have only understood recently the holding space for it, like, not trying to fix. Trying to fix is also because their pain is too uncomfortable for you, and it is uncomfortable. Like, it is absolute hell to sit with someone who is in total grief or totally fear, like, because you feel it all in your body, like, everywhere, and that is your whole job, is to sit
Yeah.
with them, and that is to
Yeah.
feel it, is to share that misery, to be a body next to them who does it and is like, but it's so hard. It's so hard to do. You want to fix, you want to give any kind of reason to make it other people's suffering make sense.
Hmm.
I think we can do it about ourselves too. It's even easier about ourselves. If it's a little bit our fault, like at least I can take the blame. At least it's a little easier. It's not so unfathomable. It's not so unknowable, and so it's not so scary.
Right.
And that's really, really sad because it hurts people. That hurts people. it, it is no way to live. It is no way to influence other people to live, and it is insidious in that culture, but also in Christian culture. And so I think maybe that's the main thing I want to call out about it, because that experiencing what I've experienced in suffering myself and walking with other people who are suffering, man, I really want to I want God to be real. Like I like this is like I want there to be justice. There is a right and wrong. I can tell you that. Like, all
Yep.
those things that mean that like manifesting, it's not good or bad. It's just neutral. You just get what you get. No, like there is evil in this world. I have seen it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I know that suffering is hard to watch, but it still doesn't mean it's their fault. We don't get to do, but we don't do that on purpose, but we do it. We just don't do it on purpose.
Oh, for sure. There's, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a whole other.
It is. I like suffering is a topic that is a topic I love. I started
I do
Wednesday.
though.
I
And the
love to
idea of,
discuss
yeah.
suffering.
Yeah,
Um,
we're gonna have to get into that sometime.
our list is getting really long. Our
I
list is
know.
getting really long. So, our next one, I think we're going to talk about. We're just going to kind of talk about what we're doing. So that'll be like what we're doing here, why, how we met. I don't know, whatever we talk about, but that's going to be more of an introductory thing if this works out. Um, what I think our next topic. I don't know. I don't remember, but we might be
We
talking
have
about
we
what the
have a lot
show.
of choices,
Yeah, yeah,
which is good.
we do. So what we want is your questions.
Uh-huh.
We will answer as unsatisfactorily as
Yeah.
as we just answered Claire's. Um, but who knows?
Claire's
Maybe
like, what the
it'll.
heck, guys? What are you
You're
talking about?
welcome. You are so welcome. Um, and it's a really good question. Um, and or
Yeah,
like things
give
that.
us more.
Yeah, yeah, Claire, give us more. We have other questions from other people if you that we're going to talk about when it kind of fits the topic. So if you have a question that you like want us to specifically discuss, I mean, not going to say answer, discuss.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I mean, don't get me wrong. Ask us for advice too. We will give you advice.
Yeah.
But we would love to.
I do love to give my opinion.
Yeah, so
That's
you
all it is.
by all means just realize that you're asking for our like informed opinions, but they're definitely
Yes.
opinions.
Yes.
They do not represent our employers, spouses,
Right.
churches, families. Problematic, none of that.
No one
Uh,
claims me, yeah.
yeah, sorry, we're just free agents. But we do have a bunch of really fun topics that we're going to tackle, but also if there's something you want to hear us geek out on, we have lots more to talk about. So Elise, where can listeners find you if they want to?
Where can you find us? Nowhere yet, because
Nowhere.
we're brand spanking new. So
Okay.
stay
All right.
stay tuned.
So wherever you saw us, wherever you saw
Yes,
this or listened to this, that's where
that's where
you'll
you can
find
find
us.
us.
Yeah. So you can comment to ask your questions, and of course you can subscribe. But if we'll tell you where to subscribe in the future if we do another one. But for now, this will be on my Substack, and yeah,
Yay!
I think that's it. I think we did it. I think we did a podcast.
I think we did it,
Yay!
and it
All
wasn't
right.
so horrible.